To the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve. As we transition to the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can deliver free education and champion the cause of our students. Together, we would be able to teach, inspire, and serve, because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve. As we transition to the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can deliver free education and champion the cause of our students. Together, we would be able to teach, inspire, and serve, because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve. We transition to the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can deliver free education and champion the cause of our students. Together, we would be able to teach, inspire, and serve, because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve. As we transition to the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can deliver free education and champion the cause of our students. Together, we would be able to teach, inspire, and serve, because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve. As we transition to the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can deliver free education and champion the cause of our students. Together, we would be able to teach, inspire, and serve, because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve. As we transition to the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can deliver free education and champion the cause of our students. Together, we would be able to teach, inspire, and serve, because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve. As we transition to the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can deliver free education and champion the cause of our students. Together, we would be able to teach, inspire, and serve, because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve. As we transition to the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can deliver free education and champion the cause of our students. Together, we would be able to teach, inspire, and serve, because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve. As we transition to the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can deliver free education and champion the cause of our students. Together, we would be able to teach, inspire, and serve, because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Tagpros Saturday webinar series. I am Jim Toscano, of course, co-founder and chief program officer of Tagpros Education. And it's my pleasure again to present to you the newest installment of our webinar workshop series. Welcome to our September series entitled Teachers Can Create, Upskilling Teachers as Content Creators and Instructional Materials Designers. Okay, so let me just talk about what we are, what the plan, the schedule for September and October. Let us consider, so we have a big partnership that will start on September and end in October, just time for our Teachers Month celebration on October. And we have a Saturday session today which acts as like an introduction, a prelude to our big partnership with Power Max Center that will commence next week. And our partnership with Power Max Center will be one or maybe the biggest partnership program that we have yet at Tagpros, and that will have some exciting events, webinars, and other things that we would love to happen. So treat this as at something as will introduce a session or a webinar series that will introduce the big partnership that we have with Power Mac Center, which will commence next week and will end in a big celebration for all teachers on October, right in time for our World Teachers Month. That is something that you would love that you would want to look forward to. So we welcome you again for this Saturday series. Of course, we will have our own our weekly series every Saturday, but please wait for some instructions later on at the end of the session so that we can share to you the amazing news that we have and amazing things that you would want to look forward to with our big partnership with Power Max Center Incorporated. So, first, everyone, let's just take some time again to breathe and to really enjoy the Saturday. I understand that a lot of our teachers are preparing for the new school year, and of course we are wishing everyone good health and making sure that everyone is prepared for the incoming school, especially for our dear teachers at the public school sector. All right. So for this month, we will be tapping into our creative sides and discover how we teachers can create better educational content. This webinar workshop series is brought to you by Tagpros Children in partnership with Tagpros Education, an up and coming online K 12 education marketplace where passion takes the lead in learning. This event is also made possible by the Department of Education International Cooperation Office under the leadership of Director Margarita Consolacion Ballesteros, Teacher Education Network Philippines under the management of Mr. Gino Luwayon, and the next series under the leadership of Mrs. Jessica Demihilio. Before we proceed, a few reminders. Again, just a few things. Number one, please practice responsible digital citizenship as we go through our discussion today, our webinar today. Please share your thoughts in a very respectful manner. Share all your ideas in a very professional way. Also, it's okay to share your thoughts. It's okay to disagree with your fellow participants, with us, even with the speaker if you think otherwise. But let's do that in a more professional and respectful way. We will also be announcing again some how do you call that, the winners for the webinar workshop raffle draw later on, and we you will be also be part of another raffle draw this afternoon. So please make sure that you practice digital citizenship posting your by not posting your Gcash or cell phone number in our comment section. Keep it to yourself and just answer that in our evaluation. So also another reminder, registering for the webinar workshop or just watching the webinar workshop does not make you eligible for an e-certificate. You have to answer our evaluation forms that we release after the session. After we open the forum or open the form, you only have a week to answer it before we close it on Friday next week. After that, no matter if you watch the webinar or even registered for it, you cannot answer the evaluation form anymore. And we hope that you understand and remember this. Just also a heads up, we are done sending all the August 21 certificates. If you did not receive yours and you answered our evaluation form, please send us an email and we will find a way to check our database if you missed the certificate and the evaluation. We are in the process of sending our webinar certificates for August 28th. And we ask for your patience because we have a big number. Our community is growing. We are very happy. We are very excited, actually. We want to celebrate that, but that means also that we will have to share the certificates. The giving of certificates will be done in a much slower manner. But of course, we'll make sure that you receive yours. All right. So before we jump to the best part of our webinar workshop series, which is the the discussion, let me share to you the winners for our for the last raffle draw for our August webinar series. So here are our 5 lucky participants who have won 500 pesos each, courtesy of our partner for last month, Globe Telecoms, the country's leading telecommunication provider. So congratulations to August 28, 2021 winners, Lenny M. Di Maala, Armelinda C. Camero, Trene Ben M. Panduma, Altman L. Cabardo, and Christine C. Cacho. Again, let me just repeat. Lenny M. Di Maala, Armelinda C. Camero, Trene Ben M. Paduma, Altman L. Cabardo, and Christine C. Cacho. Congratulations to our 5 lucky participants. Tagpros Education will get in contact with you for verification and details on how to receive the GCash prize. By the way, just an announcement also, our past winners for the past 3 weeks, some of you have not replied to our email yet. All our winners will receive theirs. All our confirmed winners and verified winners will receive theirs on September 11 next week. So we will be sending the GCash one at one point on September 11. Only those who have replied to us, only those who have replied to us with the required verification documents will be receiving their 500 GCash credits. So those who have not replied yet, please check your email, the ones that you use in the evaluation form, so that you can reply to our email. We are allotting 1 month, 1 month for you to reply. After 1 month, if you don't reply, we will have to forfeit your win, and we will make use of the credit in a better manner by sharing it to our participants also. So please, if you have friends, please make sure that you send them a message, remind them, ask them, nag-reply ka na ba? Nanalo ka? So please make sure that you ask your friends. Show care. Malay nyo, bigyan niya kayo ng balato or paghatian niyo yung 500 GCash credit. So there. Again, we also have for this series a very special sponsor. We want to thank our friend Joe Garde, and of course of Tagpros, who will be sponsoring our what you call that, our GCash raffle draw today. So we will be drawing again 5 lucky winners for this webinar workshop. And of course, for you to join, just follow the instruction, watch the webinar series, complete the evaluation form at tagpros.org website. We will be sharing the link later on. And of course, follow our social media pages on Facebook and YouTube. And then we will raffle by 11:59 Friday. Our evaluation form closes. And then we will start to raffle and draw 5 lucky participants. We will be announcing the winner for this week's webinar series today. Sometime next week, we will be live on both Facebook and YouTube. Next week, again, for a very special commencement of a great partnership with Power Math. All right. So I think we're all done with all housekeeping things, reminders. Thank you so much for being here. Before I jump in to our the main part of our session today, may I just greet our participants. I see participants coming from Leyte, from SDO Las Piñas City. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. I know that you are resting right now. Some of us should have been doing our siesta, but I know that you are here. So thank you so much for being here with us for your Saturday afternoon habit. Masbate Province, thank you so much. Bayugan City. Do we have international? I haven't checked the comment section yet, but usually we have participants, international participants. So good afternoon from Manila, Philippines. And we hope that you are enjoying, and we hope that you will engage with our speakers later on. So thank you so much, Pangasinan, Rizal, Occidental Mindoro. Thank you, dear teachers. If you have time, please share. Please tag your friends, share this in your network, share this in your Facebook groups or communities, and share the learnings that we have. Of course, sharing is caring, and thank you for being here. All right, I think we're ready to join or to start or proceed to our next part of the webinar session. Let me introduce to you our speaker. Let's meet our speaker for today. He is an Apple Distinguished Educator. And an EdTech coach and trainer. He is also a religious and values education teacher for his teaching in Catholic school. He teaches Christian life education. And of course, he has been engaged with different schools, doing training in both public and private schools, at the same time working with education organizations like Tagpros in sharing his expertise on education technology, especially in instruction and assessment. So let us all welcome Mr. Jerome Jaime, and he will be introducing to us the idea of how teachers can become better content creators and instructional materials designer of instructional materials or educational materials for distance education. Something relevant with all the concerns that we have about screen time, about modules, printed modules that we have. I think Mr. Jerome Jaime will be a good resource speaker that could help us understand what it means to become a good content creator and instructional material designer at this time of the pandemic. So let us all welcome Mr. Jerome Jaime.
Hello, everyone. I am Jerome Jaime, an EdTech coach and a Christian life education teacher at Savior School San Juan. I'm also an Apple Distinguished Educator. I give talks and workshops on educational technology, technology integration, and distance education. Now, welcome to our session, Learn to Create, Create to Learn, Educational Materials for the 21st Century Distance Education, here at the Tagpros webinar, September Series 2021. Allow me to thank you for joining us today, our dear educators, teachers, and administrators. I know that most of you are preparing for the opening of classes this coming.
We have some technical problems right now. Sorry for that. Let's just give time for our technical team to fix the. All right, I think we're ready.
Hello, everyone. I am Jerome Jaime, an EdTech coach and a Christian life education teacher at Savior School San Juan. I'm also an Apple Distinguished Educator. I give talks and workshops on educational technology, technology integration, and distance education. Now, welcome to our session, Learn to Create, Create to Learn, Educational Materials for the 21st Century Distance Education, here at the Tagpros webinar, September Series 2021. Allow me to thank you for joining us today, our dear educators, teachers, and administrators. I know that most of you are preparing for the opening of classes this coming third week of September, and it is an honor that you have chosen us to be part of your professional development activities before the start of the school year. I hope I'll be able to share valuable insights on how we can improve our skills as content creators and instructional material designers in the 21st century. Now, I think we can all agree that all the teachers are content creators, right? And those who disagree are those who are still living in the dark ages. So please come into the light. Okay. Joke lang po. Sana po open-minded kayo. Okay? Jokes aside, and speaking of open-mindedness, you would probably find that not everything in this session would apply to you. However, please feel free to adopt, reuse, or borrow anything that you find useful in this session. We greatly appreciate your active participation. So if you have any questions or ideas, you may post your comments using the links or online space provided by our Tagpros team. I'll respond to your questions and comments shortly after the discussion. Then I have posted some resources in this Padlet site as well. So it's padlet.com/Jerome C. Jaime /tagpros1. Just type this link to your internet browser to access the Padlet wall. Now, I think we are all ready. So let's begin our session by looking at our session objectives. And we are doing this because we are good teachers. Okay, so at the end of the session, we expect to, number one, understand the basic guidelines for designing educational materials for distance education. Secondly, learn a few hacks. Okay, and then number three, be more motivated to create content for teaching and learning. So among these three objectives, I am sincerely hoping that we could achieve our third goal. So to be more motivated as teachers. I think we all need some kind of motivation or inspiration with all the negative things that are happening in the world right now. The first two objectives will not matter if we will not be motivated to try the things that we will learn today. With that, let's address the most difficult part of this session, the definition of terms. First of all, what is learning? So this is the part where I encourage everyone to share their answers in the chat box. Okay? And so I will give you a minute to think about this question and share your definition of learning. To think about this question and share your definition of learning. Or to think about or by going to school. You know, it can also be about the discovery of something new, or it can be a clear manifestation of self-improvement when a person develops a good habit, values, and virtues. That is why sometimes we tell kids who misbehave, you know, that is okay for as long as you have learned your lesson. We can consider all of these as learning. But for this session, I invite you to reflect on a definition of learning that I learned from one of the webinars that I attended last year. Learning as a conversation. So it is a conversation that can happen externally or internally, which ultimately leads to understanding, a change of thinking, or a decision to act. But you may ask, Jerome, have you not made things more complicated? Parang ang lalim naman masyado, right? Well, there is a reason why I think this definition fits the topic of this session perfectly. You see, when we were having our classes before the pandemic, learning happens through the conversations that our students experience inside the classroom. External conversations take place when they ask us questions, when they recite or discuss with their classmates. They have internal conversations with their ideas, feelings, and thoughts during reflection activities. Now, educational materials serve the purpose of augmenting these conversational experiences. But when we shifted, okay, to distance learning due to the pandemic, there seemed to be a switching of roles as well. Educational materials played more significant roles in the learning process of our students. So these materials now should be able to stand alone, because with students getting minimal to almost no supervision from the teachers, from us, okay, when they are using these materials. Uh, and in fact, they must even be simple enough for parents or guardians of students to understand, okay, since they are the ones whom our students interact with the most, okay, at home. Okay. Now, so when we design our educational materials for distance learning, we have to consider the quality of conversation that the students will experience when they use these materials. And take note that the goal is understanding, change in thinking, or decision to act. For now, I think it's enough for us to focus on understanding as the product of learning. As teachers, we need to create educational materials that will help our students understand the lessons. Now, create does not mean to produce something out of nothing. Okay, as far as I know, God is the only one capable of doing that. Okay, so create here means being able to reuse or revise old materials to adapt to distance education. So your printed quizzes and assignments can be easily uploaded or copy pasted as a Google Forms quiz. You can also put together existing resources to fit the context of your class, such as creating a collage for photos or from photos that you downloaded from the internet. I just feel sad, when I hear teachers getting frustrated for trying so hard to be overly authentic by producing new and original educational materials, hoping that it will address the needs of the students in the new normal. So you see, overly thinking so much about being authentic, putting out something new and original. Okay. Dear teachers, okay, please avoid wasting your time. Okay, sorry for being harsh here, but avoid wasting your time and energy on reinventing the wheel when, okay, you can just realign it or improve, okay, on what has been created already. The key here is simply good design. But what is design? Well, again, let's start by stating what it is not. Okay, it is not simply a process to make pretty looking things. Okay, good design results in good looking products and structures, but it doesn't focus purely on aesthetics, nor is it about adding ornaments to an item or a product. Rather, it is about making the user's interaction, in this case, our students, with the environment or with a certain material, more natural and complete. Okay? In education, we can say that the design should be at the service of our students and teachers. In other words, looking at our context today, your design should work to solve the problems that we are facing in distance education in the new normal. So to quote Steve Jobs, design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. So for example, what design of educational material will work for students who do not have access to the internet? Okay. Another example is when we are designing our PowerPoint presentations for our online classes. Okay. What do we prioritize? Okay, do you add fancy transitions for each individual slide? Okay, I hope, my dear teachers, that by now everyone is aware that it's kind of useless. Putting transitions in PowerPoint presentations does not work well, okay, with our existing online conferencing applications, okay, whichever you use. It never works well. Okay. Lastly, a great design is invisible. Okay, so the design of the material should not distract the student. Instead, it should draw them towards what really matters. Okay, that is understanding the content, okay, of our lessons. Design, is a fundamental topic that deserve its own webinar. So we cannot discuss everything about it. So there are principles of design. There are guidelines to proper use of design. So if you're interested to know more about these things, please go to the Padlet site that I shared earlier, padlet.com/Jerome C. Jaime/tagpros1, okay, to check out the resources that I posted. So next is the design of educational materials that we will create should follow the learning delivery modalities, okay, for distance learning. Our fellow teachers, and I'm sure those from DepEd are very familiar with these. So to mention a few, there we have modular distance learning, or MDL, online distance learning, or ODL, and TV or radio-based instructions. So again, we will not discuss each of these in detail. However, your educational material should vary depending on the learning delivery modality that you will implement. The content should stay the same. Okay, I repeat, the content should stay the same. It does not need to change, but you need to revise or remix your materials to adapt to the modality. Okay, so if you look into our Padlet wall, you will find a link to a website that explains these in more detail. Okay, so before we move on, okay, to the next part of our presentation, let's have a short recap. Okay, so learning, as we have said, is a conversation that leads to understanding. And in distance education, we say that we need to create learning materials with good design. Hopefully, this will work to address the needs of our students who may have very little to no supervision at home. So these materials should be more interactive and varied, because as we have said, it should adapt to the modality, to the context of our students. Now, the question is, how do we create educational materials with good design? Right? Now, according to Kripa Sundar, there are 5 effective guidelines for designing educational materials for distance learning. The first one, keep it simple. The second one, keep it short. Third, keep it together. Fourth, build the base first. And fifth is leverage technology with guidance. Okay. Again, you may visit our Padlet site to read the article about this. Okay. So let's look at the first guideline. Keep it simple. We all know that simplicity is clarity. Okay, so keep the design of your materials simple as well. Actually, you will know that you have a good design if every element, if all the elements, the colors, shape, images, and text in your material simply work together. When one element does not harmonize with the others, parang naliligaw. Okay, if one of the elements looks like it does not belong to the group, you should ask yourself whether it is relevant. So when can we say that an element is relevant? So an element an element is relevant when it has proper alignment with your learning objectives. Okay, so we go back to the idea of the learning objectives. You may have elements that are very interesting, yet they are irrelevant. Why? Because they do not help the students achieve the learning objectives. In this case, that is content mastery, or mastery of the skills. So for example, if the objective is for the students to understand the basic rules of playing basketball, do you really need to add information about historical basketball events? Or do you need to include a 10-minute video clip of legendary Filipino basketball players in your learning material? Okay, so information like these are called seductive details. Seductive details. So these are details that, yeah, may look interesting. It may attract the curiosity of the students, but okay, it actually hinders the students from focusing on the content, on the actual learning objectives. And including seductive details in learning materials, according to research, can actually deter students' progress. So it's much better, okay, to make sure that you remove these seductive details, okay, irrelevant elements and content from your learning materials. So be simple and clear as well in giving instructions, right? Sure, I think this is one of the most common, um, this is where we teachers commit some mistakes, okay, and errors. Remember that your readers are your students, okay? They're not your colleagues and administrators. Of course, you submit your learning materials for approval or for checking, okay, to your administrators. But the ones who will use these materials are your students. They will be reading your instructions. And research shows that instructions online are much harder to follow than instructions are given in face-to-face setup. So you can just imagine the stress and anxiety that our students need to go through if they encounter one of these poorly written instructions. And I think based on the, the news, okay, we also hear news about instructional materials that actually are that we have created as teachers, right? And they fail to address the needs of our students in terms of clarity of instruction. So, when our instructions are simple and clear, we are assured that our students will understand them better and they will be able to complete their task, okay, in a much shorter time. They will be able to accomplish their task more effectively. All right. So that's it for keep it simple. Second is keep it short. Okay. Okay, this idea is about breaking down big ideas into smaller chunks. Okay. So imagine feeding a toddler a whole roasted chicken. Diba? Do you think the toddler will manage to eat and digest it properly on his own? Malamang maimpacho yan, diba? So what do we do, right? We give the toddler smaller digestible portions of the chicken. May iba sa atin tinatanggal ang buto. So we even have to remove the bones, okay, at times. And this is the same idea with the segmenting principle. So the idea is you arrange your contents in chunks that are manageable for students. You avoid overwhelming students by giving them all the content in one material, okay, or in one session. You have to chunk lessons based on themes, similar concepts, or skills. We make use of learning materials that are digestible and appropriate to our students. We avoid overlearning their minds with too much information or multimedia materials. Uh, let's reflect on our practices in crafting our handouts for a minute. Whether it would be digital or in printed form, let's just think about how we usually create or how we usually design our handouts. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of us have this tendency, to type everything continuously, right? In a document, from the introduction, the directions, then you go to the rubrics until you reach the evaluation. And tell me honestly, how does it feel? How would you feel if you look at when you look at this material? Okay, maybe you can type your answers in the comment section. What do you feel? Do you feel happy about it? Magsaya-saya. Yeah. And yeah, so does it feel heavy and unmotivating? Mhm. Diba? Would you even consider going through it and reading, diba? Reading through it? If you were the student, okay, um, be in the position of the students, baka title pa lang, di ba? Tulog ka na. Di ba? Tulog na tayo. At para siguro magising, kailangan na nating mag-ML, yan, or mag-TikTok. For those who do not know what ML is, it's Mobile Legends. It's one of the popular um, mobile games, okay, in smartphones. Or baka mag-TikTok na lang tayo. Ang saya, di ba? Para lang magising, para lang ma-motivate. And, you know, it's sad, but it's not hopeless, right? We know how we can improve. So let's compare this. Okay, let's compare that to this example of a material with proper segmenting. So this is called, okay, this particular example is called a hyperdox learning material. So as you can see here, it's like reading in chunks, right? Uh, hope this will definitely not make you feel tired and heavy. As you can see, each segment also has a title that gives an idea of the section of what it is about. Okay? It helps the students focus on one part of the activity at a time. So they don't have to go through the whole material just to understand the important parts or the main task that they need to do. Okay? These types of segmented materials are also good for self-paced learning, because students discover more for themselves when and how they can learn best. So if a student wants to go through the first um, chunk, okay, or the first table here, okay, can do that, right? And then if he feels tired after working on the first part of the activity, he can take a rest and then continue that after, after maybe a merienda or a siesta time. Okay. So yeah, so there. Now, there are times when we need to use video materials. So when you need to use video materials, try to keep them brief with one coherent idea per video. My recommendation would be 6 minutes or less. Okay. If you are editing your own video material, remember to use chapters if it would be long. Okay. Use chapters as segments or what we call click forward questions, okay, within the video. So click forward questions, they appear at specific segments or timestamps in your video. Okay. If you're familiar with video editing, you can simply insert um, a frame where you can ask the students to pause the video and then answer a question about the part that they have watched. Okay. In this way, we can avoid cognitive overload. Okay, so avoid cognitive overload by not cramming too much information, images, and audio in one single video. Right? And then keep it together. So due to concerns brought about by the pandemic, many of us have our attention split in so many directions. While we are designing our learning materials, we think of the health of our family members. We get distracted by kids playing at home, and then we need to prepare food for lunch, clean the house, buy groceries. Some of us need to do the laundry. Okay, sana po tapos na kayo maglaba. Okay, so that you can fully focus on our discussion. So let's just be mindful that these things do not seep into your online lessons. Hopefully they don't affect the design of your lessons. Ensure that all relevant content about a topic that a student needs to learn is in one session, okay, in one session, is presented together in one file. It could be in a folder, it could be in a page or a website. Okay, organize your module in such a way that there are less windows to open, which can clutter the browser or screen of the students, right? We have mentioned something about hyperlinks and hyperdocs. There are things that students need to click to open certain materials. Limit those clicks. Okay, make sure that things are in one place. And with this, you can take advantage of the learning management system's features. Okay, if you're using a learning management system, it has features that allow you to do this. So for example, Schoology, Canva, or in Google Classroom allow teachers to create a single page with instructions, multimedia elements, and links, okay, in one area. Okay, so the student does not have to go outside the app or the web page, okay, because everything can be played in one page. And then also remember that while audio video learning, okay, can help present dynamic information effectively in an engaging way, many students do not have access to high-speed internet. And when students do not have access to high-speed internet or no internet at all, delays in audiovisual syncing, what we call the lag, it can be detrimental to learning, right? So it might be good, okay? What can we do? It might be good to check the settings of your audiovisual materials. So for your videos, you can set the videos to a much lower resolution. Okay, you can check the resolution of your video, set it to 720p. It's very good, but you can, if if you think that your students really are really have really limited bandwidth, internet bandwidth, then you can still lower it to 480p, okay, 480 pixels. Okay, and this will not sacrifice the clarity of the image in your video. All right, so we are the fourth guide. Okay, the fourth guide tells us to build the base first. Okay, if when you provide the materials for your students, okay, of course you still have some opportunity to discuss how they'll be able to use these materials, right? So use the first minute or so of your instructional time in giving your students a high-level overview. High level meaning give them the most important things that they need to consider when working on the materials. Okay, so high level overview of what they have to learn. And if they are to learn something technical, introduce the new vocabulary that they will need to follow through the lesson without interruption. So if you post a link or a video that students need to watch, it's also advisable that you give a brief introduction or summary of that video. Don't just tell them to, okay, click on this video. Okay, provide a quick overview of that video. What is it about? So you can say that this is about the um, water cycle, for example, right? Or this video will teach you how to swim, okay? How to swim faster, okay? So these will help our students understand the relevance of what they need to read or what they need to watch, okay? Part of building the base first also is scaffolding the task in the learning materials. So begin with the most basic, then slowly build up the difficulty of the task so that the students will not feel overwhelmed. A good example of this is when English teachers ask students to write a summary of reading materials. Okay, right? English teachers in the who are tuning in to us right now, right? When an English teacher gives a reading material and asks the students to summarize, they do not just tell the students, okay, read and then summarize. There is a process. Okay? The teacher actually starts with pre-reading tasks, right? Vocabulary, word bank, and then most of the time they give pre-reading guide questions to set up the expectations and to prepare the students to what they are about to read. Okay. Then the students reads the text and then highlights important details. Right? You have sessions on highlighting important details in the reading material. Then the material can have an activity that will make the students identify main ideas or main plot or the main plot of the story. So these scaffolding activities will help the students write a more concise summary of the reading material. Okay, so there you go, scaffolding. Next is leveraging technology with guidance. So this is the last guide. So this is the fifth one. You know, technology is a tool, and it's a tool that requires certain skills so that we can use them to their full potential. And with the students, we should not assume that our students already know how to use these tools. Okay. Sometimes we say that, oh, these students, they're very techy, but you know, when you ask them to use these tools, these applications, you'll find out, no, they still need practice. They still need time to learn, to navigate and use these applications. So there is so much to learn, so much to do. Uh, so try using apps that your students are already used to or familiar with, or use apps that they can quickly master. Okay. Now, if it is their first time using a tool or an application, it's better to do a screencast or screen share. Okay. When you are having an online class, so that they'll see how they can use these applications. Or you can also provide them with a good video tutorial so that they can try the app for themselves. Now, this can help lower the learning curve of using the tool so students can focus on the content that they are to learn. And you know, dear teachers, there are just right now, there are over 4 million applications available in Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Over 4 million. 500,000 of those 4 million applications are under the category of educational apps. 500,000 educational apps. Teachers, who among you has managed to use at least 1,000? I think wala pa nga yata ako ng 20. Okay. So with all the EdTech workshops and trainings that we teachers are attending, just like right now, you're attending this webinar. You know, you may feel compelled to use as many apps as you can, you know, just to prove that I learned something from the webinar. Okay, so I have to use all these apps. Again, my dear teachers, ayoko po talaga na nasa stress kayo. So remember this, less is more. As an EdTech coach, I learned the idea of core apps. So what are core apps? These are apps that I think works not only for me, but for other educators as well. These are apps that I know are effective for teaching and learning. So I use them consistently. In your case, you can identify tech tools and apps that you know work well in your own context. It can be just 3 to 5 apps. You know, understand how they work, master them, and you know, integrate them consistently in your activities so that your students can also be familiar with them. They will be able to get used to them, and you know, they will have a more natural way of working with these applications. Okay. Speaking of apps, okay, let me simply share with you the core apps that I personally use as a teacher and as an EdTech coach. So first of all is the Apple iWork suite. Okay, so these are the Pages app, Keynote, and Numbers. Then Padlet. Okay, Padlet, one of the first apps that I used in class, in classroom technology integration. Then CISO. This is a learning management system. The Google suite of apps, so Google Slides, Google Docs, and then Book Creator, right? And then, I want to give you something new, of course. And here is a new app that I just discovered, okay, while I was coming up with ideas for this webinar. I came across this app and I think it's really good, okay, because, well, number one, it's free. But it's like Canva in a way. So it's very useful in designing effective learning materials, okay? And it's called Genially, or I hope I pronounce it correctly. So Genially is a free all-in-one tool for content creation that allows you to make presentations, okay, infographics, interactive images, even games, quizzes, guides, didactic units, and more. And then you're able to add interactivity and animation effects to them. Okay. So, you can see this example on the screen right now. So it's like Canva on steroids. In Canva, you can also create presentations, infographics, and posters. They're essentially the same, but with Genially, okay, you can customize the poster to have interactive buttons, interactive spaces that when you click, okay, students can see additional information. So this is very good for, for applying the 5 guidelines that we have talked about, right? So you can keep it simple. You can put all the major ideas in one place, so in one image, and then you can build the base first. So in the image you can have the major ideas, and then when the student clicks on an idea, he can get access to more information, right? So yeah, and other things. So you can explore this one if you are interested. So if you want to try Genially, you can find the registration link or the sign up link in our Padlet wall again as well. So again, it's padlet.com/Jerome C. Jaime/tagpros1. So before we end, yeah, we are ending now. Here are some design hacks that may seem very basic, but I think they can drastically improve your content creation skills. So just quickly, number one, build in white space. What is white space? White space is also referred to as negative space. It is an area of a design that do not include any design elements. Okay, the space is effectively empty. It's white space. It's empty. So creating a space around your resource is essential for a good user experience. So whether you're sending an email or creating a newsletter or designing a bulletin board, avoid cramming items together, like, fixing them and filling up all the spaces. Okay. Instead, cut back on the number of items and give your audience eyes some rest. Right. Then polish your hyperlinks. Okay. So when your resource sharing includes a link to something, you can provide that link in one or two of the ways. So you can give the person the raw HTTP link. This will certainly work, but these links usually look cluttered and complicated. What's more appealing to the human eye, is text that tells us something about the thing that they're clicking over to. Or there are actually ways to insert a link into an image. Okay, but that's already a bit advanced. So one option that we have, an easier option, is to have the link embed on a given text. Okay, so instead of saying, here, watch this, then give this long web address, http://www.ted.com/talk/Susan_David_ blah, blah, blah. you can just say, here, watch this TED talk about emotional courage. And then the talk about emotional courage is highlighted because it has an embedded link. Okay. So if you want to learn how to do that in some, documents, you can check again our Padlet link. Okay. So every program does this a little bit differently, but once you've learned how to do it in one place, you should be able to figure it out in other places. So they're almost the same. Third is use visual cues. So visual cues are very important. Be sparing and don't pepper your materials with so many annotations and bold text, quotation marks, and underlines, right? But do use visual cues and text, visual cues and text strategically to bring students back to attention. You can emphasize important idea or concepts in your instructional videos and slides and clarify your learning priorities. That strategy will encourage students to process the material deeply, generating memory traces that aid retention, far into the future. Then fourth, and I think, before I entered Savior, this is one of the most difficult thing for me to do. And I think it's also an experience, as most of you can relate to this, proofreading, right? So make sure that you double check your work. So look for grammatical errors, inconsistent formatting, misspelled words, and other mistakes that you might have missed in your learning materials. It would be best if you ask someone to take a look at your work so that you can get more objective comments and suggestions. As I have said, I know, di ba, as Filipinos, medyo mahihain tayo. So we tend to avoid showing our work, showing our projects and learning materials to other teachers or our colleagues. But dear teachers, to find a colleague whom you trust, maybe your friend, right? Someone who um, has the capacity to check your work, okay, so that you can gather more comments and suggestions on how you can improve your work, right? Yeah. So dear teachers, what I have given you are just a few guidelines on how you can design effective educational materials for distance education. And now that our students are physically apart, and most probably they will still feel the alienation, you feel alienated and lonely, giving them opportunities to work with others, share with others, develop friendship with others is truly a challenging task. It's very challenging. However, we must try our best as teachers to make these encounters possible by designing purposeful and meaningful learning materials. We hope that we can also create an experience of connection, community, and care among our students, during the pandemic. With that, thank you so much, dear teachers, for listening. And I'll be answering your questions now.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jerome Jaime. I think everyone agrees that the session or the webinar talk of Mr. Jerome Jaime has been very interesting, especially with what's happening right now in terms of material preparations, in terms of creating creating materials for distance education. All right. So good afternoon,
Yeah, good
Mr.
afternoon.
Jaime.
Good afternoon, Jim.
All right.
Good
So
afternoon, everyone.
Mr. Okay, so we have a few questions here, and we will be starting with them. We want to invite everyone to put in to put in your questions or even your insights so that we can actually show them in our in our screen. At the same time, address your questions and thoughts also. So, of course, we're very thankful to Mr. Jaime for all the wonderful sharing that he had. Let's start with one question right now. All right. So, this is from Jason Antonio, Mr. Jaime.
Mhm.
That's what's the indicator to set up the learning material and technology that fit the level of the learning of students? It is to ensure that elements or that allow and apply for the mastery, integration of text, clarity, design of small tools, uses of ICT. I mean, this is a very long question, but I think
Yeah.
we can start with the first part. Um, how do we ensure that the material there's background noise, I think.
Oh, sorry, sorry.
Um, what would be the clear indication that the material is actually on the level of the student?
All right. So
What are your
yeah, that's a very interesting question, no? So with all the things that we are doing, with all the grade levels that we are handling in the um, in our schools, okay, some of us teachers are handling 2 to 3 grade levels, so I can feel, the concern about how we can ensure that our materials are always compatible with the learning level of our students. So first of all, of course, you have to look at the age, diba? So is it age appropriate? So is your um, material, does it contain anything that is not appropriate for the age of the students? I think it's clear cut naman. There are different materials that will apply to the kinder to grade 1 levels that will definitely not apply to grade 5 to 6 students. Definitely, they have gone through different kinds of lessons. Okay, so the grade 5 to 6 students may have gone through more training, more formation than the kinder to grade 1 students. So age and then context. Okay, what kind of context are we looking for? Cultural context. Yeah. So are we teaching Filipino students, Filipino Chinese, or are you teaching Koreans, example? So there are content that would be easily relevant to Filipino students that may not be too important for the Chinese Filipino students or the Koreans or Japanese. Okay, and then political context, social context. So these things, um, I can still remember that in even in our school, right, we have this um, reservation for topics that talk about very sensitive stuff like human sexuality, for example. We don't just talk about them in class. We actually need to provide more training for our teachers in order to discuss these things to our students. So check what kind of exposure your students have with these kinds of things. Um, yeah, and then in terms of learning capabilities as well, the skills that the students have, make sure that you collaborate with your subject teachers. I think this is one thing that we all need to work on. So ask your English teachers, okay, ano na ba yung na-discuss nila sa grammar? Can the students already write two two paragraphs, two paragraph long sentences? Okay, uh, how is their math skills? Okay, so you go and ask your teachers because our materials may contain some activities that require skills from other subjects, and we cannot avoid that. Okay, because they'll be reading through them, they'll have to count some things. Okay, so yun, so collaborate with your teachers. So in second context, collaborate with your subject teachers, with your co-teachers,
and then age. If you want to add more, Jim, or yeah. Okay, I think Jim is experiencing some technical problems right now. Um, okay, may, maybe we can look at some of the questions. Some of the other questions here. Okay, maybe just a very short recap of the guidelines, because I think some of the participants may got a little bit confused about the guidelines, okay, that I explained earlier. So again, just a quick rundown of the guidelines. So first, keep it simple. Okay, so this has to do with the clarity of design. Keep it short. Now, keep it short does not mean that you really have to make your lessons short. Okay, it doesn't mean like that. It simply means segmenting, putting your lessons into smaller chunks so that it can be more digestible for the students when they are studying. Because remember, most of the time they're alone, so they'll be the ones who will be looking at your materials, and if they see everything in one page all crammed up, okay, believe me, they will not even try to read through it. And then keep it together. Okay, so this one has to do with how you organize your materials. Okay, so make sure things are easily accessible in one page. For example, if you are doing a printed material, I've seen some modules, they have a long essay, for example, and then the students had to go through tens or, so a lot of pages before they can even reach the reflection questions. Think of a way wherein you can insert questions in between the readings of the students so that they don't have to go through flipping all the pages just to go get through the questions. Or maybe you can put the questions at the first page, okay, so that the students have an idea of what they should be looking for. And then build the base first. Make sure you have good scaffolding. Start with the basic, okay, the more the easier topics to understand, okay, and then build up, okay, from there. And then fifth is to make sure that you leverage technology, but with guidance. Just use technology that you think the students are already familiar with. Okay. Okay, Jim, going back to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank God we have a very good speaker who's been answering, reading everything. Sorry for that. If I may add, I was watching on YouTube. If I may add also, I think Mr. Jaime spoke about context, spoke about what is appropriate. It's always important to put yourself in the position of your students. It helps, for example, if you're a teacher and you have a child, or maybe if you're a teacher who's a grandmother also, it would help if you put yourself in the position, like for example in the module itself, try to go through it with the mind of a grade 1 student, for example. If there are cha- if there are deep words that are not easy to understand, then you might want to change or modify or use other words. I think this is very interesting because one of the main concerns right now, and we want to be realistic, are the modules that we have, whether in private or in the public sectors. We know that there are efforts in making them better, especially at this time around. But as teachers, I think it's very important to remind ourselves that we are not creating the modules for us,
Yes.
right? I think that's what we always forget. We always think while making those, it's always on our level most of the time, because it's very challenging also to put yourself at the level of your students. But I think that's very very important to take note of. context is very important. So look at the words that you've used. Check the sentences that you're using also. How long are they? Um, I heard Mr. Jaime speaking about scaffolding or putting in breaks. That's very good also because when you create your learning materials, hindi kasi pahabaan. It's not about how many pages you have. It should be how good the learning is. So you're not creating a textbook. You're not creating a textbook a self-learning module, for example. That means that students should be able to undergo that learning module without the help. So Mr. Jerome mentioned about design a while ago. So design is the invisible part. The most important part of design is invisible. So for example, design principle that the self-learning module was meant for the student as a single or individual learner. Not not you don't say, for example, Mr. Jaime is a math teacher. Mr. Jaime cannot say, oh, I want to make a module but I'm expecting that someone should teach it. No. 'Di ba sabi nga natin, kung kaya naman palang gawin ng mga parents ang inaral natin ng 4 na taon, minasteral mo pa, dinoctorate mo pa, 'di ba parang, ang dali naman pala magturo, right? So, I think that's one thing that we need to understand. Moving on, Mr. Jaime, there is a question here.
Mm.
Really about the materials again. This is from Manolita Ramos Oligo. DepEd modules are information overloaded, but with less examples. How can teachers modify the modules to make it simple, short, but still aligned to the learning objectives? I think it's not. We speak for the general modules, whether it's private or public. Um, what can be done, or is it something that we can change on our level, or is it something that we can recommend, Mr. Jaime?
Yeah, you know what's difficult about this is that, you know, for of course for each school, we have different policies, and we have a different ways of looking at content and objectives, session objectives. So I think it's already very good that Miss Erica over here is acknowledging that there is information overload in the materials. So if you already know that, that's actually the first step. And she mentioned aligning with the learning objectives. That's an important step as well. As you remember, you know, aligning with the objectives help us look at what is really the most important part of our lessons. So tanungin niyo po yung mga sarili niyo, church. This is one of the challenges that our principal would always throw at us. You know, imagine yourself, magugunaw na yung mundo. Yan. Medyo ano to, medyo this is a bit extreme. Magugunaw na yung mundo. Now, in your module, look at your module. Which of these information is relevant enough, okay, for it to matter during those kinds of situations? Diba? Alin doon sa mga information na nakalagay doon, yung talagang kailangan nila na you cannot paano ba to? You cannot debate with that, no, hindi ito importante. You cannot say na hindi talaga importante. Importante talaga to eh. Kailangan talaga nandito. And church, don't tell me na lahat yon importante. Because the mere fact that we're telling ourselves, oh, it's, you know, it's overloaded, means, you know, we find some things there that are not really important. Okay? So again, there's really no other way but to reflect and look at your objectives. But then again, I understand the struggle because we need to complete, you know, a number of content. So kahit naman anong sabihin ko dito na, naku, i-trim nyo na yung content na yan. Eh, kalala lang yung management namin, yung, you know, our supervisors, they tell us it's, you know, we need this in the curriculum. So I hope we have administrators here who can, who can really open their hearts and open their minds to the struggles of the teachers. We want a module that would really address the most important, the essentials of the needs of our students. But it's a collaboration. We need to help each other. Okay, so yeah, yun.
Yeah, I think the question really here is on a policy level,
Mhm.
especially when you have a deeper understanding of what's happening in the school. Teachers cannot just do whatever they want to do, even if that's what we want. There are policies that we need to follow, and this should be a conversation that should be elevated. I think, to be fair, I think there are discussions about this. I know that there are discussions about this, but of course we have to make sure that the conversation, there's a follow through in the conversation. The conversation pushes through, right? So before we go to the next question, let me just read from Janet Mamo Victorio. Webinar like this enlightens the minds of the teachers to really make teaching and learning process as simple as possible. And also whatever learning materials we create should be on the level of our students. I think it's a very good insight from teacher Janet Mamo Victorio. I think we need to remove, I do remember when I was studying, when I was in grade school, even the teachers kasi, even teachers, we teachers ourselves think that the more complicated the words are, the deeper the words are, it for us it means it's better. Not really. I think this is what we have forgotten as teachers, and we need to continue with this. The best answer is actually the simplest answer. The best materials are the simplest ones. The job of the teacher is actually to make things simpler so that you can have more time for the students to train their minds on applying them. So it's very interesting because we need to make sure that we always remember this. It's about simplicity. This is just Mr. Jaime and I are graduate of public school system, and we proceeded to philosophy and whatever. We understood that in philosophy, if you cannot simplify uh, a difficult concept, that means you did not understand it well. Case in point, for us teachers, I've heard some teachers who are hosting, for example, some events in school. Even teacher hosts, they like to make use of difficult words that students do not even understand. I don't know. I don't know why we always think that way, but that is something that Mr. Jaime has been pushing, and a lot of education experts actually. We need to go beyond, sabi nga ni Mr. Jaime kanina, the best aspect of design is the thing that you want, that you don't see. I don't know if Mr. Jaime will agree with me, but it seems like as teachers, we always stay on what is seen. Case in point,
Yeah.
classrooms. Why are the classrooms so bright? Why does the classroom show the favorite cartoon character of the teacher? Why is the classroom colored pink or red? Because it's the favorite of the teacher. All those kinds of design Mr. Jaime mentioned a while ago, distracting design. They're not actually helping in instruction. Instead, they distract people. So maybe it's high time that we always ask ourselves, are the things that we are adding actually contributing to the learning of the students? Most of the time it's always us. It's always about the teacher. Whoever taught us that the teacher is the center of the classroom, that the te- that that the classroom is the stage of the teacher, I think we have to forget that. Whoever taught that before should not anymore teach that. All right, Mr. Jaime, any thoughts further on keeping it
Eh,
simple? I think
uh,
you have
well,
two things there.
yeah, I just want to clarify then, no? Because it may come across that, we're pushing for simplicity, and then baka naman maging, numawala na yung rigor. Teachers, dear teachers, when we say simplicity, we're not telling you to remove the rigor, the difficulty of the learning materials. The learning materials can still be rigorous and difficult. It can still push the students to go beyond what they can do right now, diba? We have learned that in basic psychology, but it doesn't need to be difficult because of the instructions, because of the distractions that are in the material. Make it difficult because of the content, because of the relevance of the skills that you want students to apply in the reading material and the materials. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's very important because one of the questions from Heaven Bento, what should we consider important? The ones
Ah,
when included in the modules are based in the MELs. Well, the MELs are already important, as
yeah.
stated by the Department of Education. We cannot do
Yes.
anything with it. But the answer of Mr. Jaime actually challenges us to change perspective. The way we present the lesson, it's like it's like this. We always want to compare content with food. Kung ang content mo ay sobrang masarap, parang lechon, ganun kasarap. So ang mga bata, harap sa content mo, para siyang lechon. It's like lechon or adobo or sinigang. Sobrang masarap siya. I'm pretty sure your students will enjoy digesting the content. But if your content is a boring food, walang lasa, doon tayong nagkakaroon ng hirap. What do we mean by that? Number one, it's not a question on the objectives because the objectives has been made for us, right? Are there certain things that we can do on the way we present? Kaya nga yung Mr. Jaime, sabi niya kanina, simplicity. Huwag masyadong, if you want it, make the acquisition or maybe the acquisition part simple, right? But the learning process should be challenging. Rigor. That's where Mr. Jaime, uh, Mr. Jaime's point of rigor comes in. Rigor, which means how do you make it more challenging for the students to apply it, right? Mr. Jaime, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah. So again, yung sa what can we consider as important? I think this requires really a little bit of reflection and again conversation. As we have been saying time and time again, it's a conversation, not only with your co-teachers, but really with your supervisors and administrators in the school. Um, because ayaw naman natin na maging na tayo yung parang magdidikta, importante to, ito hindi to importante. But it has to be a collaborative effort of the school, to really check. If you remember, Jim, when we did our curriculum updates and curriculum upgrades, it took us 2-3 years, to really refine and provide a curriculum that is distilled, that we can say na ito talaga yung importante para sa amin. But there's really no rocket science or wala namang secret behind this. It's just that minsan wala sa culture ng school yung ganung mga practices. So we really need to build that kind of culture na nakikinig tayo sa isa't isa, that we listen to one another, that we talk about these things, and then we tell ourselves na, kapag ba tinanggal ko, if I remove this content from this curriculum, will the students still be able to understand and acquire the skills that they need to do the things that I want them to do after they graduate, diba? So, makakapagbasa pa rin ba sila ng English? Can they still speak English straight, or can they still solve mathematical problems? Okay, if I remove this content, yeah, those kinds of things.
Yeah. From Annalisa Balmosena Rakakin, I like what's being said, that simplicity of the content presentation should not extinguish the rigor of the
Yes.
content. I think I saw one comment a while ago. I think it's because we have loaded content. We have so much content being studied that we forget that after acquisition is the testing. It's the trying if they can apply it. So most of the time, this is what we're saying about rigor. The content, the knowledge, keep it simple, but provide more activities for the students to test their knowledge. Like for example, if you're teaching them about the different kinds of adjectives, you don't, in my imagination, that should only be one page, kinds of, or not even one page, the content part.
Mm.
And then, dagdagan mo ng maraming exercises. I think that is what we mean also when we don't want to extinguish the rigor of learning. There should be more and more activities because that's part of learning, the feedback mechanism. Because maybe we are still on that part when we still believe that students should memorize everything. Because most of the time, if that's the idea, we tend to put a lot of content. We tend to put a lot of content and then only have a simple check of facts or maybe at the end. So hopefully that is something that we could look into. All right. Another question, Mr. RJ Apostol. Do you need learning materials like PowerPoint to have more pictures than text? Is
6%
there
text.
a concrete uh, way of saying you need more picture, you need more text, you
Mm.
don't need picture, you don't need text, or you need both?
Yeah. Well, first of all, diba, Jim, you again, you have to look at our context, diba? At the context and the need. Kasi as we've said, design should address a need. So it should also follow that your presentation, your PowerPoint slide, should be able to work in a specific context. What do I mean? For example, if you're in the classroom doing face-to-face discussion, the our practice, diba, in school is that you don't put so many texts in one slide. Put some pictures or put some multimedia visuals. Why? Because as a teacher, you're there. You're the one who's trying to explain what the students are seeing on the screen. And the pictures, they can serve as visual cues. Okay? But you have to put a bunch of pictures. Kailangan ba sobrang dami? You know, I see, I have seen um, PowerPoint slides like this na mukha na siyang collage. Are you really trying to show a collage to the students? Baka naman hindi. But if you're, for example, trying to show them different kinds of plants, right? Different kinds of animals, and you want to showcase, different types of things, then a lot of pictures may do, provided that they still follow the principles of design, diba? And not everything is crumped up. But when we now transition to an online distance learning delivery, things change. Especially our PowerPoint presentations. So, teachers, please listen. Sana makinig po kayo. Pictures, yes, put some pictures, not so much, but make sure that there is enough information on your slide such that when a student or if any participant in your webinar uh, gets disconnected, alam natin yan. It happens. Some people get disconnected. When they get disconnected and return to your and then return to your session, they will still be able to understand what's happening because they can see the information in your screen. Now, I'm not saying that you put your entire script or your entire topic on the screen, just enough so that your 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 uh, your audience, the students, can follow, even if you are lagging, even if they cannot hear you properly, they still see, diba? They can still read what's happening. Kaya nga it's also one of the more important features in some um what do you call this? In some online conferencing apps, the closed caption, you know, if you know how to use that, that's very helpful for the students. They can turn on the closed caption so that even when the teacher is laggy or gets disconnected, they can read the closed captions. Okay. Again, design. Design should follow the context and the need that it tries to address. If the pictures do not serve any kind of purpose, and if it makes the presentation fail, nako, remove the pictures. Remove the pictures. Baka mas kailangan nyo ng text. Yan.
Yeah, I think thank you for the wonderful answer, Mr. Jaime. It's very important. The last thing that he said, what all the necessary elements in your presentation. Again, here's the thing: for every material that you do, ask yourself, is that helping the student learn better? Right. So that's always the big question. If I insert the picture, this picture, is this helping the student learn better, or is this something cute? It's a meme. It's a gif that I saw online and I wanna put it there. It's cute kasi eh, yung uso na nakikita sa social media nire-repost. Some of us have the tendency to do bandwagon, right? What does that mean? Kung ano yung uso, yun yung nilalagay natin, right? And I love what Mr. Jaime said. Ask yourself, will this contribute? There's in multimedia cognitive theory, multimedia, I think, cognitive load theory. We are always reminded that it's all the best way for a student to best way to get the attention of the student. It's always combined text and picture, because most of the time the picture cannot speak for itself, or the our own interpretation. So we can have thousands of interpretation of that picture. But if you add the main statement, for example, you have a picture of the solar system. So what about the solar system? So you can put one big statement, main idea. There are 9 planets in the solar system, or whatever. 8 na pala. Sorry, 8 planets in the solar system. So things that I think we need to be clear, what's the purpose really? Kung pa-cute lang, kung pa-cute tas video and GIF, dadagdag siya sa MB or the storage or the file content, it will be harder for the students to download. So again, it might not be very, very practical, right? Speaking of materials again, Mr. Jaime, we had an earlier question here about let me just look for it. So this one first. So 90% of the students do not have internet connection. Aside from distributing modules and reading materials, what are the other differentiated activities can we give to a teaching and learning process more enjoyable to the part of the learners? So what if we only have printed modules and reading materials? How can we ensure differentiation in printed materials? Or are there any other things that they can do? Mr. Jaime, what are your thoughts about it?
Well, yeah, so we acknowledge naman the limitation, right? We acknowledge the limitation that there are times and there are certain contexts, student contexts, that would limit us to printed modules. So we do the most out of it. If we know the basic principle behind differentiation, then that would be a lot easier. One thing that we can do is to provide options for the students. What do I mean by options? So, yeah, I hope you can imagine this. So if, for example, in your module, you can, instead of asking the students to simply write their reflections on the module, you can add an option where they can draw, diba? Or where they can do an artwork, maybe cut out pictures from magazines or newspapers and then paste it in their module, okay, and then add captions, okay, or a poster about, for example, or we are so fond with songs, maybe some students can, compose their own songs, diba? So there are a lot of ways. We just really need to be a bit creative. And again, what's the idea behind the differentiation and, diba, at times personalization of the module? Again, it's to give the students options, to express their learning in the in what they know is their best capacity, diba? So that's the idea naman behind the differentiated learning. So you give those options in your module. We don't need to be too overly complicated, about these options as well. Um, you don't need to they don't need to give everything naman, diba? Don't give 10 options. Too many options naman would also confuse the students. Two or three would do, and then provide some examples of how the students can do this in the module, right? um yeah, so that, I think, that's one.
Yeah, I think Mr. Jaime also noted how limited if we're doing printed module. One, here's the thing. One limitation really for printed based learning modules is that we need to secure a certain level of interaction with the content,
Mhm.
right? So the all the activities there should be interactive. What does that mean? It should allow the student to answer answer back. That's why you have activities. But here's the thing: the module cannot answer back to the student. So I think one of the things that we can do, talking about how do we engage, is to ask the help of the parents or learning managers. But here's the thing: how do we differentiate this? Number one, Mr. Jaime said a while ago that design the lesson as if no one will help them. That's your base model, or that's your base level. What if, of course, because we cannot deny the presence of the adults there, like older brother, older sister, uncle, auntie, lolo, lola, whoever. I think one of the best practices that I've seen, and this is happening even in some public schools, they actually made an orientation to the parents and told them your role is not to read the modules to them. They will have to read. Your role is not to answer for them. Instead, your role is to interact with them. What does that mean? If there are activities, parent, your role is to give feedback and maybe try to explain why is this correct or maybe why is this wrong. Um, there's a concern here. For example, Rose Aninion says the problem po in public school, they cannot answer on the modules kasi they return it pa after school year. Even before naman, di ba yung libro nga namin noon, hindi namin pwedeng answeran, ibabalik namin, nakatali pa yun, di ba, at the end of the school year. So this should not stop you. That's why you might need to create some worksheets. Worksheets or maybe answer sheets, tama ba? So for this problem example, it's just easy to look for a solution. They cannot answer the module. Give them notebooks, right? Notebooks or maybe answer sheets that should be a way to answer this. Or maybe they need to cut out something, separate what they can. What's our word? Consumable and non-consumable. I think the modules are non-consumable, which means they cannot answer them, then maybe effort on our part create consumable materials for them, right? So yeah, that's one way of looking into this. We have one more question, Mr. Jaime, and this speaks about kinder, kinder who
Mhm.
might not have prior knowledge, um, because that's the first time, right, that they're going to school.
Yeah.
Kinder who might not have enough prior knowledge, how do we engage them with a learning material that they might not be able, well, they don't know how to read yet, for example.
Mhm.
So how do we respond to that? Do we just depend on the module, or how do we engage even the whole community?
Yeah, so I think you have partly, diba? You have answered this already with the previous question. So this is again a collaboration with, as you have said, with the community, with the guardians and the parents of the kinder student. We we simply do not have any choice, diba? Kasi they are at home. Remember, uh, we are physically distant from the students. So there's really no way for us to check what is happening with them, how they are consuming the materials that we are giving them, how they go through it. So the only way is really to involve the parents. Um, and I know, diba, it's not an easy task to have the parents go on board with this kind of setup. Siyempre, nakarinig na tayo ng, kaya nga may mga teachers, di ba? Kasi, at saka, napaka-busy namin. Pero, we have to make them realize that this is the context that we are in right now. We are in a pandemic. Baka nakakalimutan na nila yon. Diba? We are in a pandemic and we don't have that much choice. Diba? And if they really care for the development of the students, for the students to experience a little bit of normalcy in this times, okay, then I think makukuha naman natin yung loob nila. We can really tap into their motherly or fatherly instincts and try to get them help out, because again they are our partners in this venture. Yun.
Yeah, I think that's one very important. Siguro we need to further cement, further firm up our partnership with our parents. Baka kasi naman tayo, we only go to our parents when we need donations for painting the fence, kailangan ng bagong electric fan. Joke lang po. I think we maybe cement a better relationship with them, right? Because one way of really doing that is to make known that noon nagko-complain tayo, di ba? Wala silang interaction sa atin. Ngayon at may interaction sila, minsan na tayo naman nagko-complain. So I hope we have to make sure that we continue cementing our relationship with our parents. Just one more thing here before we go to our closing activities. How can teachers raise their concern to the school administrators? In terms of materials, there is actually public service announcement. The Department of Education has actually a protocol or a process for that. And they have already publicized that even before. I think the Department of Education is not denying that the errors that they have. They actually know, they actually accept the errors that they have. And they already have a process for it. So please, for our dear teachers, ask your fellow teachers or ask your school heads, there's a process of reporting it properly. And most of the time, you don't have to go to social media, and because the social media does not actually solve anything. Most of the time, it makes things worse. So please follow the proper protocol. For those working in private schools, if you're working in private schools, then please make sure that you report to whoever your school leaders are. All right. So there, and we have a lot of insights right now, and of course, we are very realistic. Realistic also. There are still concerns about instructional materials. Even before naman, Mr. Jaime, I think even during face-to-face, we didn't have 100% error materials, right? But again, it's always something that we want to aim for. Mr. Jaime, as we close, thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor. Mr. Jaime is actually one of our speakers in our future workshops in Tagpros with our partner teachers. So if you're interested, listen later on about how to become a partner teacher for Tagpros. Mr. Jaime, before we say thank you and goodbye to you, any final thoughts, final message to our dear teachers?
So, yes, sure. Um, diba, if you um will fail to remember everything that we have said and that has been said in the discussion, I think one of the things that I would like you to remember is that our modules, our materials, they are an extension of ourselves as teachers. You cannot deny that. So make it professional, but personal as well. Diba? Draw from your own experiences. It will help a lot, and the students will also appreciate that. Don't frustrate yourself into looking into so many resources, digging into the piles of resources kasi ang dami nila, 'di ba? There are so many open resources out there in the internet, but really the resource, the greatest resource I think that you can draw from is yourself, your experiences. Look into your experiences, and it's a fountain of material already. So with that, I also thank you, Jim, and the Tagpros team for giving me this opportunity to share some insights to our educators, and I'm really really honored to be here this afternoon. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you and goodbye, Mr. Jaime. We hope to see you again next time. And
Yeah, see you.
all right. So for our dear participants right now, thank you so much for being here. The goal really of our September workshop is to make sure we help our dear teachers, you dear teachers, to 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 become better content creators, to design your learning materials in a much better way. Of course, there are still some concerns, there are still some problems, but that's part of it. That's why we're here to help and help everyone in terms of creating materials. It's always a big concern right now, but in the end, I hope that we get to help each other. I think that's very, very important. Mr. Jaime emphasized a while ago, why not collaborate with other teachers, right? Maybe why not collaborate also with parents? I know that there are some school heads, principals, and even teachers who extend their support, especially for our parents. You know that there are programs like, for example, I have a friend in Bicol, who engages parents as or nanays and tatais. For those nanas and tatais who cannot read yet, they actually have a program right now where they are also teaching the parents how to read. So that even at this time of the pandemic, they can actually help their kids. So I think those are what we call as innovations in education. We look for the problem, look for the solution. And even if that concerns working with the parents, then that should be a way for us to engage our school community. So there, a lot of ideas. Thank you everyone for being here. I apologize. I've been having some problems with my internet connection. That's the reality of this, of doing online classes, doing online webinars. So just a few reminders again. So um, we are now on the last part, and of course a reminder, the evaluation link will be shown to you right now. I hope the team could show it right now. um, let's see. Okay, so please tell us what you think about our session. Please make sure that you answer our evaluation form. Can the team show the evaluation form, the link to the evaluation form? All right, please go to www.tagpros.org for our evaluation. This is the website. You might see the website right now. Just scroll down, click here. So look for the evaluation, click there, and it should open to a Google form, Google survey. So it should be open already. We actually close it because there are some of us teachers where we should be models of honesty. Some of you are answering it even before the start of the session. So we are models of honesty. medyo wala naman sanang very straightforward thought. Medyo walang meaning ang certificate pag hindi tama ang pagkuha ng certificate. Right? So there, now that we're done, you're now free to answer the evaluation form. This will give you a chance to be part of our raffle draw. 500 Gcash for 5 people each. That's each. Okay, so thank you so much to our sponsor, Mr. Joe Garde, one of our co-founders in Tagpros Education. So again, www.tagpros.org, evaluation form is there. Answer that evaluation form, and at the same time, have a chance to get an e-certificate and be part of our raffle draw. Again, we are having a large volume, a big volume of certificates being sent out. Please, the rule is actually you will only receive your certificate 1 week after you answered the evaluation form. If you receive it earlier, that's a bonus. But our rule really is all certificates should be sent 1 week after you answered the evaluation form. If you received it immediately, then that's a bonus. Kudos to you, kudos to our team. But again, 1 week rule applies. Right? So there, let me just speak about two things. Number one, we are looking for partner teachers. So I hope the technical team could show our invitation. We are looking for partner teachers. Tax Children is a non-profit organization, but we also have another EdTech company. It's called Tagpros Education. Tagpros Education is an online learning platform where we will be partnering with teachers to become online teachers. And this is where the exciting part is. Our partner teachers will be getting commission, which means you will be getting paid when you create your online content that our students can study online. So we are looking for partner teachers that we will be training to become better online educators. So if you're interested, please go to bit.ly/tagpros teacher partner. So just to give you a heads up, we will be starting our training of Tagpros partner teacher or teacher partner next week. And we have just been credited as a CPD provider. So our training for our exclusive teacher partners will be CPD accredited. All right. So that's, I think, one of the things that you would look forward to. Note, not all webinars are CPD accredited. However, our first CPD accredited workshop will be for our aspiring Tagpros teacher partners. You will be undergoing an exclusive workshop for us so that you can join our Tagpros Education Marketplace, which we will be launching later at the end of the year. Second thing, for those who have stayed with us or those who are still watching for Team Replay, this is an exciting announcement. Starting next week and until October, we are going to launch our partnership with Power Mac. So there are a lot of details that I want to share, but I cannot share yet. But one important thing is that because this is a very big partnership with the biggest Apple reseller in the Philippines, which is Power Mac Incorporated, just to give you a hint, there will be still webinars on our theme, on creating teachers being content creators, amazing content creators for instruction material. But because we're partnering with the biggest Apple reseller in the Philippines, Power Mac Center, there will be some exciting prizes. There will be some exciting prizes, exciting discounts, discounts. So that's your hint, discounts. There will be exciting prizes, raffle draw, and of course, there will be a big teacher competition at the end at the duration of our partnership, and it will culminate on October as we celebrate the Teachers Month and the Teachers Day on October. So please watch out for our partnership. This is the biggest partnership project that we have yet. At this early. We're just a new profit organization, but we have secured this great partnership with Power Mac Center. So please wait for our announcement this week in our social media platform. I'm pretty sure you'll be excited. We are so excited to have this with you. And yeah, please look forward to our announcement. It's Tagpros and Power Mac Center. All right. So there's one question again. Can you share again the link for the evaluation? Yes, it's www.tagpros.org. 1 week rule applies. You only have 1 week to watch and answer the evaluation form. You will receive your certificate 1 week after. If you receive it immediately, that's a bonus for you. But expect that please expect that your certificate will be given 1 week after you answered the evaluation form. If you have not answered your evaluation form, please send us a direct message. A lot of you are commenting. It's really hard for us to go through the comments in each post. We are not able to read them, to be honest, because there's a lot of posts. But if you DM us, right, slide to our DM and send us a message, private message or DM, it will be easier for us to answer your concerns. All right, so thank you everyone. God bless and have a good Saturday. Please keep yourselves and your families safe. So thank you everyone. Watch out for our promotion for our Tagpros and Power Mac Center partnership. Goodbye and God bless.
To the new normal, we have left others behind. We need to reimagine and redesign our educational system. With the collective effort of schools, sponsors, and Tagpros learning management system, and core of passionate teachers, we can deliver free education and champion the cause of our students. Together, we would be able to teach, inspire, and serve, because Tagpros believes that education is a right all children deserve.